Okay, starting time. Welcome. This is the October AIA San Francisco Design Tech Meetup. And we have with us today two co-presenters. We have Clifton Harness from TestFit. He's calling in from Dallas. And then we have Jonas Jarum, who is calling in from Norway. And that's the reason why we're meeting at noon today instead of 5. And we also have Cesar Escalante, who is the chair of the Design Technology Committee in San Francisco at the AIA. So he's the one who makes all those things happen. And we have Carson Maruka behind the scenes, and he's part of the AIA San Francisco team. My name is Dave Alpert. I lead the meetups. I'm simply going to introduce the co-presenters and then moderate it as needed. There will be opportunity to chat a little bit at the end, so we won't have to sign off exactly at 1 or whatever time you're in, whether you're in New York or Maine or wherever. Okay, so to get started, Clifton is leading his firm, which is doing generative design. And he was chatting just before about how there's a lot of commodity type buildings. He said that they're specializing right now in housing, which has been very strong during the pandemic. And so not libraries or more unique one-off buildings, but what type of architecture can we use generative design for as an assist? It doesn't replace us as architects. It augments what we can already do. Now, Jonas, who's calling in from Norway, is part of a team that was acquired a year ago by Autodesk. And he was saying that it was acquired without anybody on the side of Autodesk or Spacemaker ever meeting face to face. So that's an amazing story. And unless I'm mistaken, Jonas, you're going to go first?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Okay, so these guys are just going to share their screens. It's very casual.
Yes, I will. And first of all, I mean, very nice to be here and very nice to see all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And I must say, great job on pronouncing my last name, Dave. You got it right. So yeah, let me just share my screen here for a moment. While I do that, presenting myself very quickly. So you should be able to see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Great. All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Jonas. I'm a strategic business developer at Spacemaker, which is essentially, I joined the company in 2019. And what we do is typically that we work with our go-to-market strategy and how to expand Spacemaker into new markets. Now, mostly that's been relating to international expansion efforts up until this point. And now it's, you mentioned the acquisition. So it's a lot about learning more about how we can work together with Autodesk to reach an even wider audience. So I'm very happy to be here today. And I wanted to give you sort of a high-level introduction to Spacemaker, to the company, to our product and the core value prop, and also to show you a product demonstration. So, but first, I want to give you guys a very quick introduction to Spacemaker as a company. And we were founded in Oslo, in Norway, in 2016. And since then, we have grown quite rapidly. So the team now includes more than 120 people from 15 different countries. We have expertise from fields with like architecture, urban planning, technology, business, and design. And the people are not only based in Nordics anymore, but we're now spread across a host of different countries in Europe, 8 different countries. We also have an office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And almost a year ago now, we were acquired by Autodesk. And since then, we have been working a lot together with Autodesk on how we together can meet the customer needs for better early stage design tools. So, as I mentioned, Spacemaker was founded in 2016 when one of our co-founders, Håvard Haukeland, who is an architect, he was working on a early stage design for a large residential project in Oslo. And he found himself at the center of this cloud of different requirements that I'm sure a lot of you who are attending are architects, so I'm sure that you can relate to this. And even if you are just in the industry, you know that particularly in the early process, there are so many different things that you need to cater for, right? You have regulatory requirements, you have the neighbors, you have parking requirements, the economics of the projects, the list just goes on. And Håvard, he found himself in the center here. And there were just so many different aspects that he needed to consider simultaneously, while also being under time pressure, that he found it extremely difficult to find the best solution. And particularly when the tools that he had available at his disposal were limited to some traditional methods like freehand drawing and using software without the decision support that he needed to know all the different things that you can see on the left-hand side here. And another effect of him lacking a good enough tool was that the process typically turns into this silo-based process where you solve for one requirement at a time. And there's really no effective way to truly explore the trade-offs and work in an iterative manner to find the best solutions. And of course, last but not least, this is a very time-consuming exercise because you'd spend a lot of time on tedious tasks, and that makes it really suboptimal, and you're not really free to use your architectural intuition and creativity to find the best proposals for your project. So Håvard then had the idea that there must be a better way to do this, and he ended up trying to make that himself. So he created Spacemaker, which is essentially a cloud-based, easy-to-use platform that lets you reimagine the early stage planning phase. And at its core, Spacemaker has four sort of core value pillars within of capabilities. So the first is instant digital model. You have AI-powered design, you have real-time analysis, and you have seamless collaboration. And I will go through each of these in sequence. So if we start with instant digital model, Spacemaker lets your user select an address or location anywhere in the world, and within minutes, you get a 3D model of the site and its surroundings. And this enables you to work digitally from the get-go, using either your own data or on, for instance, the surrounding buildings or the terrain, or you can use one of the automatically sourced data sets that we have within the platform. And once you set up your site, you want to design something. And Spacemaker lets you leverage a host of different design capabilities in order to give you as much flexibility and power as a designer as possible. So Spacemaker lets you use freehand drawing, lets you use parametric design. We have generative design, and we also have height optimization of buildings. And this makes it very easy for you to explore a lot of different workflows and design to explore different proposals within a very, very short time. And it also lets you work seamlessly with the BIM tools of your choice. So you can import and export models to and from Spacemaker and continue working with them in other softwares once you find the solutions that you want to continue with. Now, a very significant part of the Spacemaker platform is the analysis capabilities, where you can simulate and predict the impact of your proposal by using detailed and accurate analyses of a lot of different criteria and constraints. And this is the first time that as a user, you can get a lot of these insights so early in the process, right? Because this is when you truly make the decisions that you need to live with, the large decisions on how to place your buildings that you need to live with for the rest of the project. And doing that in an informed way enables what we like to call outcome-driven design, when you design a proposal based on the qualities that you will get out on the other side. And we have a lot of different analyses that the user can leverage. And they range from geometrical analysis of the site, the buildings, and down to the apartment level, to analysis of the surroundings, how steep the terrain is, how much outdoor area is it. You can also check for regulatory requirement, for instance, with regards to parking places or spacing between buildings or noise conditions. And last but not least, Spacemaker lets you analyze for a lot of living qualities that have previously been very hard to quantify in such a short amount of time. So Spacemaker lets you run analyses of different qualities, such as wind conditions, light conditions, both sunlight and daylight. You can analyze view towards objects of interest, and you can even analyze microclimate, so to analyze whether you will have problems with heat islands on your design. And much, much more. And all of this you can also do assess the effect on the neighbors. And lastly, another really big thing is that Spacemaker enables transparent collaboration and communication between the different stakeholders in a project, of which there typically are a lot, right? So what this does is that the fact that Spacemaker is cloud-based, all you need for it to run is a laptop, Google Chrome installed, and you're good to go. And the fact that it's so easy to use makes it easy to invite people from different stakeholders into your project, see them in 3D, look at the statistics, enabling a truly fact-based decision at this very early stage. And this essentially creates a lot of more productive dialogues that go a lot faster than before and leads to better decision-making faster. And better decision-making faster is a very important part of what we consider to be the key value proposition of Spacemaker. And if we were to boil them down into three main buckets, first one is to save time by automating and speeding up tedious tasks. Two, you can reduce risk in your projects by getting more facts earlier in the process. And three, you can improve the value of your project and improve the quality of your design by getting this instant feedback on the qualities immediately. And to give you an example of this, I wanted to share with you a story from a leading French architecture office called Vallon de Piste, who had been using Spacemaker for quite a while, and they wanted to truly put the software to the test. So they wanted to see how much faster can you do the process with Spacemaker compared to with their traditional process. So what they did was that they had two teams internally compete against each other on the same feasibility study. And what they found was that the team using Spacemaker, they managed to develop their first concept 35% faster than the other team. So that saved them 2 days of work. And moreover, on the subsequent designs, they actually worked twice as fast as they otherwise were doing. So essentially, I think the quote that their BIM director has here sums it up quite nicely, that this not only made them work quicker, but it also made it possible for them as architects to work creatively, and to spend less time on tedious calculations and more time to think about the project and design to make a better design. So I see that there is yes, that's from Dave in the commentary. So that's a lot of talk, but I also wanted, of course, to show you guys how it works. And feel free to raise any questions at any time, and I will try to address them. So let me switch the screen that I'm sharing for a moment. It's all black now, right? Yes, I assume so. All right. So so the video that I'm about to show you, it shows just some of the different capabilities of the Spacemaker platform, and there is a lot more to it than what I will have time for. I see that I have 8 minutes left, and there's a lot more to Spacemaker than what I will show you here. So what I truly would recommend for you to explore the platform is to test it out for yourselves. Now we'll get back to how you can do that after showing you the video. So when you start a project with Spacemaker, the first thing you do is that you write in the address of your site or the location, and you get thrown into the exact location that you want. And this can be anywhere in the world. So you start out by marking out the area around the site. A Spacemaker will use local data sources to automatically fetch data on terrain and surrounding buildings, which depends somewhat on the different locations, which data we have. But you get this 3D model within just a matter of minutes. So in this case, you can see that we have this quite nice location in France. And once we have the site set up, you can use one of the different design capabilities to start exploring different options for the site. So for instance, one way to get started is to use Spacemaker's generative design feature, which is called Explore. And you can do that by, for instance, dividing the site into a few different lots. You can input some parameters that you want the machine to work with here on the left-hand side. So you can choose how high should the buildings be, and which qualities should they optimize the heights for. You can also choose some different typologies that you would like the machine to work with, and whether you want it to work with fixed or varied heights. So you hit the button, and within just a few seconds, you get tons of different proposals that you can evaluate. So you can see here, these numbers are in French, but they are building coverage, gross floor area, and gross internal area, and also relative ratios towards the site size. So you can compare them against each other. You can quickly move between them, and if you find one that you like, you can choose to continue working with it. And in this case, you can choose even to continue just with parts of what the machine generated and run another generative process to generate for the rest of the site. We also have other design tools, such as both in 2D and 3D. So here we can see our live building feature, where you can use parametric design to get some closed city blocks, for instance, that you can continue working on with freehand. And you can easily copy buildings, paste buildings, push, pull, drag, and delete, all super quickly, while generating automatically apartment layouts. And here on the right-hand side, you can also see the apartment size distribution between different Here's a square meter, but in the US, we support square footage. We can also, if you have constraints for how close the buildings can be to each other, you can insert them in Spacemaker and get instant feedback on whether your buildings are adhering to the local regulations. And all of this you can also use in 3D. So here we see an example of using line buildings, where essentially a user draws a line and Spacemaker generates a building around that line with apartment layouts and a building course automatically. If you're working on a mixed use project, or you have, for instance, parts of the project with affordable housing, etc., you can give buildings different, or floors different categorizations, and choose to analyze these individually. And you can also work down on the apartment layout level based on the apartment library that we have available for you in the platform. And see here in the upper corner how the unit distribution varies as a result of which type of core or which type of apartment layout that you go for. So here we can see that we have a lot of some large apartments and some smaller. We also support parking, which in always is a pain for a lot of our users, and we're happy to help with that. So you can draw a polygon and get parking spots generated automatically. Both how many parking spots do you have, how large is it, and all of this is based on some input parameters that you yourself make on, for instance, how large or small the parking spots need to be.
Okay, coming.
And last but not least, or second to last but not least, we have the analysis capabilities. So here we have the sunlight analysis, which essentially what you input is the date of the year and which time of that date that you want to analyze. And Spacemaker analyzes how many hours of sun is each point of the facade getting. And this is very important because it essentially enables you to find solutions where apartments are not in the dark. And similarly with noise, you can use traffic data on the streets surrounding the site and simulate the noise level that each apartment will have, so that you can ensure that each apartment will get access to a quiet facade, for instance. We also have, and this is a personal favorite actually, which is the view to area analysis, which essentially lets you draw an object of interest around the site and see how many apartments have a direct view towards that object of interest. So in this case, we have chosen the river, and we see that 152 apartments have a direct view towards the river, which is pretty cool. And then we have, for instance, here, wind analysis, where you can see by using data from the global wind atlas, you can see whether your design will make any wind tunnels, making it uncomfortable for people to actually be outside on their site. So once you have your footprint in place, you can also use our height optimization engine to distribute the building heights to optimize for the quality that is the most important to you. So for instance, you can minimize the number of apartments that has bad sun conditions, or maximize the number of apartments with a view towards the river. And now, once you have a few different options that you like, you can compare them in the library mode, where you can choose the different parameters that matter the most to you and compare them side by side against each other, truly enabling the fact-based discussion that I was talking about. So that is a very quick overview of the Spacemaker platform. And I hope you found it interesting. Wanted also to share with you how you can get access to it. And what you can do is to sign up for a trial on our website. And I also wanted to let you know that we are in the we have just been acquired by Autodesk, and we are now in the process of making Spacemaker available to even more people than before through launching a named user subscriptions in the market. Now, we haven't launched it yet. We hope to do it soon. But for now, it is possible to register your interest to apply in what we call the early access program to get your hands on this before the rest of the market. So if that sounds interesting, I think we have
Jonas,
a
yeah,
link.
I
Yes.
asked you some individual questions, but why don't we
okay.
wait till the end? And
Yeah.
you can, okay, because I definitely want to give Clifton an opportunity to get started here, and there will be a discussion later.
Sure
okay,
thing.
thank you.
Awesome.
That was awesome. Thank you. You good to go, Clifton?
Yeah, y'all ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
How do I present on here? Share screen? Yeah. Okay. Of course. Duh. If I'd done a Zoom call. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Clipton Harness, that's me. Let's see. I've got this window in the way. All right. BARC, UT Austin, 2015. I spent an enormous amount of time in architecture firms during college, 3,000 hours as an intern. Never worked after college in architecture. I went right into real estate development. Multifamily, new urbanist real estate development is kind of my DNA. Co-founded TestFit in 2017, and then feel free to follow me on Twitter. So our mission is to democratize data-driven building design by solving feasibility for commodity buildings. And we've had a few milestones. We raised $2 million in January 2020. I've got 13 employees now. We all met finally together in one place. 2 weeks ago. It was incredible to actually see these people in real life. Just the reality of running a startup during COVID. Their resumes are incredible. We've got BIMTrack, Structuresoft alumni, director of sales, got Brookfield Properties background, customer support. He comes from the third largest multifamily architecture firm in the country. I've got a computational design genius from Borough Happold, a couple of employees that have Katera on their resume, and then engineer from SDS2. So we have 13 employees, but every single one of them is a thoroughbred, amazing employee. So we've got 15 configurators to date. Wrap, hotel, office, roads, podium, garden, volumetric modular, single family, residential, service parking, urban, industrial, townhome, parking garage, envelopes, wrap, podium, liner. We have a lot. And then we have one major integration with Inkscape, which will be released, I believe, tomorrow morning. So that image from before, this is what it looked like just in our native software. And then when we turn on Inkscape, it's literally night and day difference. So we're pretty excited to bring this rendering technology to our customers. Our historic focus has been on housing, wrap, podium, garden, Gerben, volumetric modular, SFR, townhome, wrap, podium, liner. That is most of our effort in the product. And our customer breakdown within there is actually architects, developers, and general contractors. So it was very important to us early on to get the buy-in from at least two of these three and have users actually paying for it from these different industries. And so we are probably the one and only configurator on the market today that architects fund more than 50% of the development for. So we're very proud of that. And we're going to keep going in that direction if we can. So when we look at the market, or when I look at the market, this is kind of how it looks in my brain. You've got these really close relationships between, architects and their engineers and their contractors and interiors. But then the developers, they've got their relationships with architects, bankers, investors, brokers, and sometimes even landowners. So having an understanding of what everybody else's perspective is really important to building feasibility software for commodity buildings. And I'll get into that here in a second. So deal cycles are opportunity costs. So let's say a developer has a piece of land that they're interested in. They'll send it to an architect. They'll draw a site plan. The developer will then, when the architect's drawing the site plan, it's about an 8-hour process. As our Spacemaker colleagues have kind of stated, it's not a simple process. It takes effort. Then they'll draw a site plan, they'll send it to developer, they'll get a bit more of an idea of what the deal is with a unit count, but they need to go get hard costs, understand, if this project actually pencils. So contractors, they'll give a much better idea about like how expensive this thing is with, what their assumptions are. And, maybe they'll talk about materials, means and methods, whatever. And then I'll go back to the developer. So now he'll have a site plan with hard costs, with rent assumptions, and he'll have almost everything that he needs to go to the bank and investors for a project to move forward. So it's right here where TestFit lives. Our success comes from focusing on deals. We don't get into the, SD phase. We stay like we've drawn a pretty big line in terms of not trying to get into further down the process, or what I would deem like CAD BIM territory. So we focus on deals. And that means that the building design is kind of the core thing that we build everything else off of, with the pricing, the pro forma, the land, and the zoning. So let's see. We'll go through a couple of these. High praise. This is Tom Rettenauer. He runs like a 12-person architecture firm in Virginia. So, this is what he had to say about us: decreases the design time process, increases the number of potential solutions, allow his firm to be more competitive in making deals. They're able to use TestFit to help developers and city planning groups understand the future of site layouts. And then more with a more numeric, simple case study, a project that we worked on using TestFit. The St. John's project had a 12.5% increase in units. So of course the developers, they get really excited about, value add. I guess the third major value of a configurator is that you can increase the value of the project. Doubled the size of the original park. So it had a park function. We were able to make the building quite a bit more dense. The instantaneous feedback, gave them the ability to go through a significant amount more of iterations than they would have been able to otherwise. All right, so I'm just gonna jump into a product demonstration. It's not going to be a very structured demo because we're just going to look at maybe one site and then we can decide what to do with it. But this is maybe a TestFit file about 30 minutes in, maybe less if you're skilled. And the thing that I don't like about it is I've got a parking lot in the middle. I've got this low density townhouse thing here. I might want to make a more, dense area. So it's not a real master plan, but it's just a quick demo site. And we can do a real site in a couple of seconds after we do this one. So we have, like I said before, we have a bunch of configurators. Within there, we have roads. So for example, this road right here, I can go in the road editor. I can start to edit this street section. Here we have some assumptions that, on the parking run, it's a 90-degree angle. The planar width is 9 feet. The max run is 90 feet. Okay, so we can, if we want more trees, for example, we could set this to, 45 feet. We end up with more trees. And so I'll go back to the main site plan, and you can see the parametric road section has been updated every single place that it is. So that same sort of nesting of parameters inside an object and then laying it into a master plan or a main plan. Broader vision is what we do kind of at every level. So if I go into a multifamily site here, we'll have a unit, and inside that unit is going to have information about what that unit is. So it's parametric. Buildings are made up of units. So this is the kit of parts that is then laid on top of this building right here. And then the users can specify from the configurator, what the weight percentages are for those units. So it gives a high level of customizability with a high level of speed. And what I mean by that is I can go to this site here and I can say, give me, a podium fill building, and we change it from a parking lot, to a double donut 5/2 a deal. So finding highest and best use is what a lot of the development guys are trying to get to. And they historically will do it through an architect that moves at about 8 hours per iteration, which is probably the slowest part of the market in real estate deals. So there was a huge need to automate this part of the process. So this is a bit more of a finished one. I'm going to hit reset. We're going to go to, Dallas, Texas. I'm going to click parcels, load in some parcel information, go to site. I'm going to define from a parcel. I'm just going to grab, maybe an assemblage here. So I just painted a bit of an assemblage, define from parcels, go ahead and turn them off. So I got my site here. And it's telling me, hey, you failed to solve the site. Well, that's okay. We're going to go to the configurator. And right now our options are telling it to draw something that it can't fit here. So typically in the US, where we have different morphology when it comes to typology changes. So what I mean by that is, like, a wrap building has a rectangular garage, that's precast, and it has some constraints of its own that really affects how the rest of the site can be designed. So right now, TestFit's trying to draw a wrap here. It can't fit a wrap. So what can it fill? What can it fit? A podium fill. It can put as much parking on the ground floor and then put building on top. So we have this issue in the US where morphology drives typology and vice versa. So we have to be very specific with how we treat geometry, which leads to TestFit having to build 15 different configurators to solve, 80% of what the housing market wants out of a configurator. Any questions so far? Like, you guys can kind of shout from the audience, like, things that you want me to do to this building in real time to make it a better building. Like right now it's addressing the street in a really poor way. Y'all are architects. What would be a great way to configure this building? Anybody in multifamily out there? So I guess we'll go into questions if nobody has.
I know that there are a lot of architects on the call. Feel free to speak up.
So TestFit models are basically created from TestFit information. Unless it's a Revit group, then we can build a kit of parts from that Revit group for interoperability with Revit. To get a SketchUp component, you export out a TestFit and you open it up in SketchUp, and everything is a component if it's in a stack. So it's a nice export. It's practical. It's useful.
Oh, okay, I'll ask you a question.
Sure.
Go back to your model.
Yeah.
So it's all one level.
It's
would
one floor plate type, but if
Yeah.
we have like a setback at height or something, we can start to manipulate how that is
Yeah.
solved from the site. I think I'm in an experimental version of TestFit though, so it might not be working. There we go. Get a bit of a setback.
Okay.
Problems
So
with,
can you say require that there be a certain volume or a certain number of units, and then whatever you do
Nope.
pushes it in another direction?
So TestFit is a configurator. It is not generative design. And what that means is that it solves 2-unit yield. It doesn't solve 4-unit yield. We felt like it was pretty important to give designers like a very important role in the feedback loop of creating sites. And if we just had like a click button and it solves, you wouldn't have the co-creation tools that we have today. It would look a whole lot worse, I think, from a co-creation standpoint. And you get better buildings when the architects are able to actually, adjust what the algorithm generates. So what I mean by that is like I could generate like a surface park deal or something, or a donut or something, and I can go in and I can start to edit the segments of the thing that gets generated. And I mean, I think we were probably the first startup to release a product like this where it was co-creation. You generate, edit. And it's been really great to see the rest of the kind of the ecosystem head in this direction.
Super. So you have more, Clifton?
More?
Or
I
you
mean, I
have
can
more?
show you guys anything if you'd like. Am I at time?
I was just wondering if this was time to ask both you and Jonas some questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to cut your presentation short.
Oh, no. It's I think you guys get the point. It's parametric. It's Revit from the building level instead of from the element level.
So you use the term co-creation.
Right.
So is it your intent that designers look at this as something which is allowing them to co-create? How would you explain that?
So they can control every single parameter and every single part that gets put into the building from the lowest possible level. And then there's editable attributes from the highest possible level. So essentially you constrain, every time you constrain a problem, you move more quickly. And so the architecture industry, when handed, BIM, they constrain it a little bit and you can move a little bit more quickly. Like CAD is infinite because you can basically do anything. So here we're just constraining a bit more and then getting the speed and efficiency of using, basically nested Russian dolls to enact change across global parameters in a building.
So, I mean, co-creation could mean collaborating with other stakeholders more easily than without these tools.
It could.
Collaboration. Yeah.
It could, but historically co-creation means algorithm doing math, human doing creative work.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that one of the interests that designers have with these products is how easy is it to say determine where your software ends its work and where you start your work? Like how far does the software go?
Yeah, and it's not for us to determine. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying we are drawing a line of like, I'm not going to go over the line into SDs because I don't think it's frankly good for our business to lose focus on solving the feasibility problem. Architects are specifically commodity architects and apartments right now are underwater. They do not have breath in their lungs because there's so much work.
Right. So it's just for conceptual design. Would you say the same thing,
Yeah.
Jonas?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, the way that we see sort of and sort of picking up on the co-creation part, we see that to actually have an impact on projects, the AI of course needs to be paired with the intuition of the architect, right? So because the architects are of course equipped with a lot of understanding of the different nuances that the machine doesn't understand, right? So it's be that their aesthetic preferences, their political environments, zoning requirements, and the list goes on, right? So essentially what we try to do with Spacemaker, of course, is to let the user sort of to supercharge the user and let them use the machine to do what that's good at, calculating stuff, to sort of supercharge the architect, who is always in the driving seat of the process. So then moving on to the second part of the question, it's really up to the architect, sort of where the software starts or stops. But we want architects to typically start their projects out in Spacemaker. They can continue working with them in other softwares, but it's always the architect, or I mean, not necessarily the architect, but the designer of the site, be that the business developer or the investor, the architect, the engineer, the municipality, for that matter. They're always in the driver's seat.
So I know it's common in the profession now for architecture firms to use an easier tool like SketchUp for schematic design, and then to move into Revit. The idea is that Revit doesn't allow you as easy creativity maybe as SketchUp does, and SketchUp doesn't allow you the same degree of construction documentation. So there's concerns in the profession about the transition from one software to another during the process. And does this add another software then where you also have a discontinuity, or have you planned how to migrate the design from the initial configuration directly into a more detailed software like SketchUp or Revit?
So we have a lot of experience doing this. I would say, like, the role of test fit is to set up a project for success in a design bid build environment. So I think we could get more tech savvy if we solve the contract problem, get more invested in, maybe a joint digital, process with A, E, and C, and even O. But like the things that people do in test fit, like when they're done with it, is I want to get it in Inkscape to render it. Okay. So historically they're going to SketchUp or going to Revit to do that. Now they don't have to. So we've removed that friction. And so like the transition process into BIM, or even CAD for that matter, needs to wait for the latest possible moment. And then we advise people, okay, if you're ready to go into SDs, now's the time to transition your test fit data into BIM or CAD or whatever the firm is doing. I would also caution that like BIM is not dominant in terms of like in multifamily, half of the firms that we work with aren't even in BIM yet. So like the commodity buildings out there that are getting built, the 5/2s, like most of them, it's just 2D CAD. So it's an industry that is maybe behind a bit technologically because they never had to adopt BIM because the buildings aren't complicated enough to really warrant, the creation of this hefty BIM model that takes a lot of time. And, so now it's like, okay, well, we can get you 85% of the BIM model that you need from the test fit environment. And that's pretty encouraging to see. Like we've got a pretty good architecture firm out of Ohio that has an excellent process from getting test fit, into SD BIM.
Awesome. Do you have anything you want to add, Jonas?
No, I think well, in terms of like the get-go from the question is that we're of course aiming towards streamlining the entire process as much as possible. Essentially enhancing the process, be that by digitizing what was previously not digitized, doing more sort of analysis and getting more insight earlier in the process than people are doing today. We have seen that from a lot of our customers who previously, I mean, many of them were particularly on the developer side, they were using very, very simple methods in the, for instance, the site acquisition process. They were using
Yep.
like creating shapes in PowerPoint slides to simulate buildings, or if they were not doing that, they were just using Excel. So we've seen that by sort of changing that can create a lot of value. And then we aim to sort of course, make it even more seamless than it already is, to continue working in working with it in other softwares. And of course, as part of the Autodesk family now, we're of course working very, very closely together with them to optimize for doing that in an even more
Okay, super.
with fashion.
Super. Okay. I see there are some questions in the chat. So I'm going to pose these questions to you guys and ask you to answer them very like with short, concise answers as best you can. Okay. Do all of the elements need to be built within the test fit program, or does it take model imports from other software like SketchUp?
So the only quote unquote import process that we have is to take Revit model groups and turn them into a test fit kit of parts. So in the demo, I showed like a slew of units, like 5 or 6 units in the unit editor, and then test fit builds the rest of the building based off of those units. So if you actually have model groups in Revit that you want to reference and test fit, we can.
Okay.
And that's the only import, process that we really have.
Okay.
We don't have an analysis engine where it would make a whole lot of sense to be able to import, geometry from some other program that, is significantly slower at generating geometry, because the people that use TestFit are trying to get a feasibility study done. They're not trying to, change some aspect. Like, it's not like you open up the model to edit it. Like, typically a TestFit run is done in one. Not sure if that makes sense, but
Okay.
yeah.
Jonas, did you have anything you want to add to that? Okay.
Not really.
Okay, so the next question is, in terms of interoperability, do you see a way to combine your strengths? Because Spacemaker-like analysis
Yeah,
could be
if
combined with
they put
TestFit.
all of their APIs on Forge, we would pay for it for our customers to use. Sure. I don't think they will, but they can.
Okay, interesting vision. Okay, here's somebody who says, we're staying focused on building configurators and we'll be looking to address analysis through integrations. If you
Yeah,
have a
that's
favorite
Alexine
tool.
answering.
Okay.
That's Alexine answering basically what I just said. Like,
Okay, gotcha.
if they open it up, we'll use it.
Yeah.
There's a couple other out there that we're really interested in that are
Okay.
high quality. Not as high quality, I would say.
Okay. So someone asked earlier, and somebody is offering a video about Spacemaker. So that's also on your team?
Yes,
Jonas?
that's right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, understood. I know we have a couple people from construction on the call, which is awesome. And so I was wondering, how did these look to you? Is this scary? Because then conceptual design is being done maybe without the same regard for structure as it would be if it was just done by hand.
Oh, they're gonna love instant quantity takeoff, man.
Okay.
That's
Hold on,
that's
I
the
wanna hear
trade-off.
from them.
That's the trade-off, man. It's the
I
trade-off.
want to hear. Any questions? Tim?
I have a question
Okay,
for
good.
both.
Thank you.
If is there a way, and maybe someone, I for a second I had to like walk away from the meeting. So is there a way of integrating this into something more visual, something more realistic, like creating renderings from
Yeah, I think I think that, yeah, a minute ago, Clifton was saying that they're going to come out with a rendering.
It's going to
Pardon
be
me,
released tomorrow. We're closely partnered with Inkscape right now. We're the first technology company, that they gave their SDK to. And essentially what it means, like they've built plugins for everything else, and that's how they make money. There's now another way for them to capitalize on their rendering technology, which frankly, like it's amazing. It's so easy to use. Like it's, I don't know if y'all remember like trying to use like 3D Studio Max to render stuff, and it was impossible in my mind. But we have their SDK, so Inkscape will be running inside TestFit as of tomorrow. So we have an in-suite rendering engine.
Okay, so that answers that for TestFit. For Spacemaker.
Yeah. So, I mean, at Spacemaker, we're obviously like focusing on the very, very early stage. So focusing on the lower level of detail than you would typically find in a rendering. So to do that from Spacemaker, it would need to be combined with other softwares, which of course is possible. But for now, we're of course focusing on really enhancing that very early stage design process.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That was great. Thank you for asking that question, Tesla. Are there any other questions? Because I want to thank these guys. Okay. We can continue a little bit after 1 o'clock if people want to continue asking any questions or chatting. But because this is only scheduled from 12 to 1 Pacific time, with respect for people's time, I just wanted to thank our two co-presenters, Jonas and Clifton, encourage everybody to try out these products. As Jonas explained, you can only try it out now on an early access program, which you can contact him about.
Yeah, and we have free trials. Go to spacemakerai.com to check them out for a 14-day trial. Take it for a spin.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like it's definitely going to be a big part of our future in design. So it's awesome to see it develop to the point that you guys have done it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's we would be nowhere without the architecture industry. So yeah, that's why we're here. I think we also offer a free trial and a whole slew of things. Maybe Jack's already messaged people, but we are active in the US, so we are open for business here. You don't have to wait, I guess. Maybe the one difference between TestFit and Spacemaker in the US, you can go for it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and thanks to everybody for participating. Okay, now I'll open it back up for questions. Are there any questions about the engineering, how engineering works with this? Because remember,
we should talk about that. Yeah. So TestFit's a desktop tool, like it's real-time design, right on your desktop. And so the latency, there's zero latency. So like the thing that we saw with like Grasshopper scripts and stuff is like you'd click generate and then you'd go like walk away for 30 minutes and then come back and then like maybe your model would be there. So we early on in 2017, we're architecting this thing, decided to go with super low level languages so that we could basically be very efficient with how we're generating buildings. And so that's why we can generate a parking garage and drag it around and go crazy. And, it's updating the whole tower above it, and the life safety code and IBC is all in compliance, all in real time. And it's a good starting point to build, future algorithms on top of. So I think Spacemaker, y'all are cloud or something?
Yeah, that's right. So born in the cloud, you run it in the browser. So which makes all you really need is a stable internet connection and a computer and Google Chrome, and then you're good to go. So that of course means that you can share access to Spacemaker to anyone, and they can open projects, for instance, instantly and work in the software very easily.
Cool. So what kind of invention was required for this? as opposed to putting together technology which already existed?
Mm.
That's a really good question. I think there's been I mean there are I think a lot of good answers to that. I'm not a tech guy, so maybe some of them some of the things that we have already were made by someone else. But no, I would say that of course quite a lot of the analysis capabilities in Spacemaker is something that just has not been available to users earlier, right? So most of the other analysis capabilities for instance noise analysis or wind analysis are super heavy, carried out by specialized consulting firms, and they're not using the same sort of fast methods that we are using. That being said, I mean, of course, it builds on the different methods that are being applied to solve similar problems in other use cases. So it's about, I'd say, it depends a bit on your sort of definition of what an innovation is, right? Because using not reinventing the wheel, but using it for something completely new is of course innovation as well.
I think you're being modest a bit. So like everything that we do is unknown work in a way. So like when we started looking at how to draw a parking garage or how to make an algorithm for a parking garage that could handle any geometry possible, that's like, okay, that's a holy guacamole big problem to answer. And so we focus a lot on the geometry. The thing that's really hard, I think, that is maybe understated about like what's great about Spacemaker is that the analysis stuff is way quicker than what it used to be. It's like 10 times faster. Like I don't even, it's now in a frame of reference that makes the analysis useful for the thing that you're doing. And that's an engineering feat in the same way that I think, generating a fully IBC compliant wrap building in 30 milliseconds is.
Okay, so I understood your answer earlier about the application of your software to conceptual design and not intending to go into schematic design. And it does raise some questions about whether there's a benefit to possibly experimenting with extending it further. There are a lot of repetitive building types like hotels, hospitals, housing also, where the components within them are competitive as well as the buildings as a whole. And I'm not talking about like in a whole apartment. I'm talking about the components within the apartment. And this has already been approached by modular design. So why wouldn't you have it in your programs?
So we have modular and test fit. We have volumetric modular. Modular in the US is 0.3% of all new housing deals. So it really isn't like large enough for a small startup like us to want to go after in our market in the US. We released a modular tool because it was easy to build. So the goal, I think, when we're talking about modular and the future of it is like how to build a program that can support that when it becomes available to the US. There's 1,000,001 prefab sort of companies that feel like out there that have raised a lot of money and they're all building their own configurators. So, it's maybe a little bit hard for me to see, how TestFit rolls into that industry. I don't know.
I see. Before Jonas replies, I want to clarify. I'm not suggesting that you literally include prefabricated components.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, that's where it goes. When you talk to prefab guys, that's where it goes.
Yeah,
like,
no,
how
I'm
can
talking
I
about just pre-designed components so that you're working like with a kit of parts.
Oh, okay. So like tilt would be a great example. Tilt wall construction, where it's
Yeah.
just like the same exact thing. Okay, so our new product line is actually light industrial. So it's about 85% the amount of space of multifamily is light industrial built every year, and it's just only increasing. So we actually architects that are doing site plans for light industrial have asked us to, hey, can you, like, multifamily is cool, but we like really, you to do this other building that's a giant rectangle with, columns, and like it's very descriptive with how you can lay out that building. So I was kind of impressed with it. Maybe I come from, high density multifamily, so that's the first thing we did at TestFit. But it's very hard to build a configurator for that market because, as I've said before, we had to build like 8 or 9 different multifamily configurators. Like they're all difficult to build. Light industrial, it's got tilt, it's got columns, it's got skylights, it's got docks. It's very simple. It's repeatable. So if, to answer your question, if we were to go like into SD or maybe partner with an architect on a more tech enabled like solution for delivering light industrial buildings, it would be a simpler typology. It would not be housing at first, in my mind.
How about you, Jonas?
No, yeah, I mean, in terms of this is something that we hear quite often, and actually in a lot of the markets that we're already in, we know that the trend sort of it's in the market is moving more and more towards like standardization of the processes, and modular the trend to do modular buildings is of course one of those. And I mean, this is something that we definitely work continuously within Spacemaker to cater for these needs. At the moment, we still operate at the higher level, but we're sort of working in the direction of supporting even more of those things, and sort of echoing some of what Clifton said, that if you are to actually build all of these different types of buildings, I mean, all the different companies have different types of modules, right? They have different standard formats and templates. So what is needed to be done is to do that in an easier, more configurable way, which we are now working hard on to do, and it will be super exciting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, I mean, like housing is easy in a way, but hospital has components also, and large hospital organizations like Kaiser Permanente have been experimenting with modular design for years, and that doesn't mean modular construction. It's just either designing entire departments and then configuring them on a site-specific way, or designing individual rooms only, and then, which is more recent, and configuring them in a variety
the
of ways.
bath pod revolution is never going to end, I don't think, and that's just
Yeah.
something that we can build on.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity for that. And one of the things we've talked about before in these meetups is that the architecture profession doesn't touch most of the built environment. And if
it is horrifying, I
Yeah.
think, when you realize that is true. And it's hard, I think, for architects to fully respect that, that we've got a long distance to go in terms of recapturing design leadership of the built environment in a way, for everyday things, not for the stellar, buildings, the Starchitect buildings. Like, we got plenty of that. We need to get a whole lot better at, like, how do we produce housing for 1 billion people?
Right.
There's not a great answer out there.
Yeah, and if one of our goals is for the overall environment to be the highest possible quality beyond the projects which we are able to work on individually, then it seems like systems like this could be seen as maybe expanding the reach of architects rather than infringing upon their creativity.
That's the real trouble, right? Is how do you do that? And how do you do it thoughtfully? Like, when we released in 2017, we didn't have any co-creation tools. And, I remember one demo where I'd presented, and this guy just stood up and he started just pacing around the conference room, like, and he was muttering to himself, like, I better learn how to be a poet. Like, I better learn how to get into music or art or something. Cause like nothing is sacred anymore. And it's all, it shook me. It really shook me.
God.
And it was good for like a 24-year-old to have that experience. And cause like what we're building is real, and what we're building has consequences somewhere along the path. But my point, I think, is that the benefits of using this far outweigh any kind of consequence, because where we're headed is resource scarcity. Where we're headed is needing to house more people. Like, we need to future-proof the future. And if the architecture industry is not tech enabled and ready to do it, your responsibility will be ripped from you. The development industry will take it. The construction guys will take it. We haven't seen the Jeff Bezos of construction. That guy, you think he's gonna care that the building was not strategic, systemic, sustainable, beautiful, experiential, meaningful, and contextual? Like, they're not going to care. So right now we need to get a system in place where we can end up with better cities, more beautiful, everything, by getting ahead of the technology and getting ahead of everything. There needs to be a sense of urgency, and I don't think there is. And we have a pandemic, right?
Jonas,
Enough
did
to
you
worry
wanna-
about.
Did you want to add anything, Jonas?
No, I think those are interesting, interesting reflections for sure.
Is it also true in Europe, in your experience, that architects have such a limited reach? Like in the US, just to inform you, architects only work on 25% of all buildings and only 1% of houses.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. I don't have any comparable numbers for Europe, but our experience is that, or my experience is, at least, is that architects are typically involved when there's a project.
Right.
So
More of our problem.
yeah.
Does it-
What is the reason for that? Or who
Not
are
a
design?
decision.
Right.
It's complicated. I think it has to do with the market demand. And
Hey
it
guys,
also-
my team is yelling at me
Yeah.
that I need to be on another call. So
Okay.
love the discussion. I could
Yeah.
probably keep going for a while. And when I get to
Sure.
Norway, Jonas, I'm gonna buy coffee, like lots of coffee. Is that what we all do? We got to
Lots of
talk,
coffee.
at length about this, because it's a nasty problem, and it takes a lot. It's going to take a lot more than just TestFit and Spacemaker to move the needle in this industry. So
Okay, more power to
For
you
sure.
guys. Okay, just
Yep.
since we're signing off, the next meetup is going to be on the third Wednesday of November. And the topic is going to be the actual implementation of augmented reality on the AIA San Francisco headquarters project. And that will be jointly presented by the AIA themselves, by the architect, Adlin Darling, and by my company, Geopogo. We'll show how we were able to boost the donations, get more money into the project by using AR. Okay, thank you guys again. And thanks to
Thank you so much,
everybody
guys.
for participating. All right,
see you guys.
all right.
Cheers.